All right, it's all set.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is January 27th, 2022. Welcome to the Plumbing, Piping Examining Board. This is approximately 9:11 a.m. on this Thursday. This time I would like to ask the board members to review the minutes special meeting on December 15th of 2021 to accept the minutes. Do I get a motion to accept the minutes based on our
Motion to accept.
I'll second the motion.
Great. We have a motion, a second. Do we have any discussion further on the regulations that was being sent over to the Department of Health? No, with no, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Deny. Abstain. So moved. Okay, thanks, guys.
Who was the second on that one? I'm sorry. It was Chris and
I second it. Jay.
Jay. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, moving right along. Does everybody have a complaint status report from Janita and Pam's division in reference to investigations going on? Does everybody have a copy of that in front of them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions at all for Janita or Pam or this time?
I don't, I'll make a motion to accept her report if we have to.
Okay, that's a first.
Well, I didn't know if we had to. If not, then don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, that's no,
Okay,
that's
but I do have a question for Janita.
okay.
Yes, Mr. Bowman.
What, this pool company out in the eastern part of the state, are we gonna have any issues with him, or you can't discuss it at this time?
Oh, this is Pamela Brown. This is a open matter that we cannot discuss at this time. And it is currently under investigation still, and it's with a different unit.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Okay, substitute House bill under old business here, an act concerning Department of Consumer Protection, liquor. Cannabis bill number 6100 includes changes to Connecticut General Statute 393 about written contracts. Leslie O'Brien, I believe, may attend this meeting to discuss that. Oh, thanks, Leslie. Could you give the board, can you address the board with that information we talked about? Meeting?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So there was a drafting error last year, and the bill that passed, the language that passed was not everything we intended it to be. The language was supposed to, when there are written contracts, ensure that certain provisions were included in written contracts, but it was not supposed to require that all contracts are written contracts. It was also supposed to, with regard to invoicing, when there's an invoice rather than a written contract ahead of time of the work, there was, the requirement was supposed to be that the workers who do the work on the job, that their license numbers are on the invoices. That was the intent of last year, and somehow drafting wise things got mixed up, and so we ended up with language that was not entirely what we were looking for. We have new language, which I actually have to forward to the board chairs and will today. The governor's office didn't approve it until I didn't get approval until Monday morning, but I did get it, and so now, and I wasn't allowed to forward it to anyone until the governor's office approved, so that's why it took me so long. But we have language to fix everything that that's being raised in the general law committee, and I'll be sending it around to the chairs, and they can share with members today. I'll do that.
Great, thanks, Leslie. Does any of the board members have any questions for Leslie O'Brien in reference to this? No. Okay. Leslie, thanks a lot.
I have one other thing, if you
Sure.
want me to. We also, in the same bill, have there's language in the bill that also allows for remote CEs, like was happening before, under executive order, the governor. That language will include a provision that the remote CEs have to include, interactive classrooms, so that there does need to be engagement and an instructor involved, even though the remote component will be allowed. That's the language that I will also be forwarding to Chairman Appleby today.
Leslie, thanks for that, because I was going to bring that up under the CEU. So at our MOU meeting the other day, an hour before our meeting, I believe the governor's office had okayed for us to go virtual this session, I believe. Can you, or am I wrong? Can you correct me if I'm wrong? Are we okay to go virtual this next 5-6 months before renewals are?
I don't know that that's accurate. I'll double check.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's news to me, but I will.
Okay. That was my wrong interpretation.
Where was you, based on what did you think? Why did you think that again?
I thought, on last week's MOU meeting, I just thought that the discussion, an hour, something came down, I thought, from the governor's office an hour before that you had mentioned, because I know I tried to reach out and see if there was anything that I needed to know going in the meeting. So I'm not sure.
I'm sorry. I think that may have been a miscommunication. We would love for that to happen, but right now there seems to be a desire by the legislature and the governor to allow the legislature to determine sort of next steps when it comes to this public health emergency, and so as a result, I don't foresee that happening.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That was
No, it's fine, as long as this is good, so we know going into our curriculum, because the plumbers start soon here, once we start getting our stuff together, and the agency is working with Jason Cohen to put together an online presence with all the information, so I'll be able to access it, which I'll be bringing up shortly. Great, thanks. Is there anything else, Leslie? I know you're busy.
No, that's thank you. I think that's it. I mean, we are also as you all know, the CE language was amended last year to require that CEs be complete 3 months before renewal, and so we'll be sending out notifications to licensees to inform them of that, and we'll be doing sort of like a regular reminder of that. But that is, we're working on a notification that we will hopefully have ready to be sent out to licensees starting next week. So that is another update. We planned on sharing the language that we will send out in an email to all licensees before we send it out. We're planning to share that with Chairman Appleby and Chairman Valerie's, so that they can review it to make sure we have everything we need in the email. So
Thanks, Leslie. Board members, since our next line item, number 2, is an update on the plumbing continuing education, Leslie pretty much told us everything that I was going to discuss. So it's really, the fact that classes, when everybody does put together their new, do we have Jason on board? Do we have Jason Cohen here at all,
No.
Karen?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Can I just take
Sure.
a second here? I just want to make sure with Leslie while we have her, because we're getting a lot of requests and emails and questions about online continuing education, and I just want to make sure right now, for the time being, there is no option for that for the foreseeable future, right? I mean, I know it's in the works, but for the purposes of the emails that I'm addressing, or the licensees that I'm addressing by email, there just isn't an option, and I should probably, that's what I want to convey.
right, yes, I mean, and by the way, Chairman Appleby, I apologize if I spoke out of tune on the CE update piece for your agenda. Sorry about that. You're right. Yes, that's correct, Karen. I thank you for forwarding the, email, some of the emails you're getting on this issue to me. We do not have the authority to allow for the remote CEs to continue.
Okay.
We don't have the authority to do that. We would love to, but we don't have the authority to. So we are short of another executive order, which is
Okay.
not in the works. We have proposed language for this legislative session. I spoke with a gentleman last night and I explained this to him. He was very frustrated because he's, 68, I think he said, and, he's not going anywhere with, without, in a classroom setting like that. So we are going to convey to the leadership of the General Law Committee the need to move this language very quickly, so that hopefully we can get this done before the very end of session. The session adjourns this year. May 4th is the last day of the legislative session. We're hoping, the good news is the General Law Committee's deadlines are amongst the earliest deadlines for committees. So the leadership wants to get the DCP bills done quickly and first out of the gates, they told us. So I've told, if we get, the more inquiries we get, I'm going to let everybody know the process, who you send to me, Karen. And I gave the gentleman last night the contact information, the email addresses of the general law leaders, so that he could, express, the need to move this quickly to them. The
thing with that may be then, if this doesn't happen until May and then they have to take it by June 30th. I know everybody's doing the best they can, but then by the time, everybody gets word, okay, we can do it online, then there may only be a month left for people to do
understand.
CEs,
We're stuck though. The problem is
I know.
The law requires the 3 months right now. We can't waive that either. And
Right.
to get an extension on that would also require a legislative change that it sounds like we're better off just pushing for the which is what our bill does. We're better off just pushing to make sure this online piece is allowed and pushing for them to do it quickly. And that's the goal. So to the, to the extent board members here feel strongly about this and want to share that concern with legislators, that's great, much appreciated. And I don't have a bill number yet because, again, the session hasn't started, but they have the language, and in theory, the legislative commissioner's office is drafting it, or it's been drafted. So I'll have when I have a bill number, I'll be happy to share that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen, for that too. I appreciate that. That's especially with all the overwhelming calls and emails you're getting. Does any of the board members have any questions about this with Leslie while we have her?
I do.
Melissa has her hand up.
Thanks, Melissa.
One of my concerns is in looking through the documents that Karen sent out is the working group had discussed allowing people from out of state to have licenses here, which we've never done before. So I understand that that's something that's discussed and it's not formally approved yet. But Leslie, that would just be another thing that if that does get approved and we're allowing P2s from Rhode Island, Westchester County, and Putnam County to have licenses here in Connecticut, which has never been done before if they don't meet our criteria for schooling, I would be concerned that if we don't allow online CEUs, that all of these people from other states won't keep up with their license requirements.
So separate issue. I get how you're connecting it to the online CEUs. When it comes to the out-of-state applications for equivalency, that's what you're talking about. And to make sure I understand, what you're talking about is in the documentation for the agenda, there was a list of potential out-of-state licenses that could be, and Richard, you're here somewhere, I hope, that could be approved by the working group if they get those applications. And so, right, to your point, if you all sign off on that and there's no online CE component, then your concern is that they wouldn't keep up with the CEs because they wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't have the access or the ability to come into Connecticut to do the in-person. That's
correct.
So, what I would say to that is we are, at the very latest, and we really want this to be a lot earlier. At the very latest, the requirement, the online, hopefully requirement, allowing online would happen at the very latest, at the very beginning of May. We would hope for it to happen much sooner than that. I can't give you more information than that at this point, because I can't guarantee anything. So as you're all deciding what to do, I appreciate the concern there 100%. But yeah, we and I'll let Richard take over, but we really want to get this online piece done quickly, and but it is a sort of separate issue from this other issue, even though I get why there's a concern.
Thanks.
Richard, I don't know, do you have anything you want to
Yeah.
add?
No, but this has been a problem for years with out-of-state licensees being able to take continuing education, and some of the schools did find locations out of state, or we had some in maybe electrical type. We had some providers of education that were in fact out of state. So no, I mean, this would be good if we get the online back. It will clear up that there will be no excuses for out-of-state licensees not to take the CE.
Right. Right. And we've always been protecting our license holders that do all the schooling here and meet the same requirements. And I mean, we could use the same example of the state of Connecticut is working virtually. So you don't want your plumbers to actually be able to have that same advantage. So I'd love to see if you could send out the bill number. I would definitely write to general law.
Yep, I absolutely, as soon as I have a bill number, I will absolutely share it. And I will be talking again with the leaders of the committee and, flag the, I've said it before, but I'll reinforce based on this meeting and the feedback I've been getting from licensees about not being able to do this online anymore. I'll reiterate to the committee leadership too, but I will send you that bill number as soon as I have it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Thanks, Melissa. As far as continuing update, is Jason attending today, Karen, to discuss the participants as far as the going forward, how he is going to possibly put together that class for the facilitators to teach them how to go online and actually put in all their information versus the binder. So that way we can, I can see that on a daily basis to see the whole program and see what is missing out of I believe there's 11 or 12 pieces. Just to share with the board, yesterday I met with Karen and Jason Cohen. He's an IT specialist with the department, and he put together a online so the schools can go online instead of putting a binder like their fire marshal requirements, their insurance certificates. All those things can be now put online very simply added to this. They'll have a confirmation number. I want to call it almost like an account number to go on to Connecticut e-license. They'll only have access to a certain area, and they'll be able to plug in everything that we need. So that way I don't have to make 10 trips or 6 trips to Hartford and then go back again to see what changes were made if they weren't done. So it's really going to help me and the boards. Larry will be doing it as well, I believe, over at electrical. Obviously, we only have 6 groups that we have to go through training, where Larry has over 30 schools over at the electrical board that'll have to go through the same process. So it's just bringing us up to snuff. I think it's a great idea. And there'll be more to follow if Jason's not here today, but we'll be able to, but I like the fact that he's offered to at least help do a kind of an online presentation of how each school can enter their information into the database. Karen will be eventually providing each school with an ID account number. I believe I'm right, Karen, in saying that.
Right. They will be assigned account numbers, and Jason, within the next 2 weeks, this will be all set to go, and Jason will be providing instructions and an online and a training session on Zoom or on Teams to let the providers know how to go about submitting their online education provider package this way. But it is a better way to go. It's up to speed with technology, and it's a good thing. It's a good change.
Karen, to give you credit here, that was really a push by you to get that done. And I really appreciate that, because it's really, after yesterday's meeting, it's really going to make my life easier, because at the end of the day, at 4 o'clock, whatever providers send in information, I'll be able to sit at my desk at 5 a.m. before I go to work at 7 to be able to quickly get back to all the schools. You know what I mean?
Right.
Excuse me, I have to let the dog out for a second. Sorry about that. Okay. Thanks, Karen. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're on to the well drilling regulations now. Cynthia's been working on, and I'm going to give Cynthia the floor right now, if that's okay.
Okay, sure. So good morning, everyone. I think we all know that after, I think it was last month's special meeting that we had regarding the requested revision to the well drilling regs, where the board, or at least, there was a public comment requesting that the authority to issue replacement well permits be transferred from the board to local health districts. We went back to DPH, as you all know, for their commentary, since this would directly affect local health directors. And they opposed that change, so it did not go through. Their major concern was a lack of uniformity across the board, with local health districts individually deciding these replacement well permits without really there being like an overarching body to control, or at least to apply some uniformity to their application of those regulations. So we put together our notice of decision. The department put together a notice of decision, and that was just posted yesterday by Jerry on the e-regulation system, saying that that change will not be applied to the regulations at this point. DPH also felt that that should go through a statutory change, because they felt that the department doesn't have the authority to transfer that authority from the board to the local health districts. So we won't be putting in that change. And the next step at this point, according to Jerry, who just told me this last night, is to send these to the Attorney General's office to review for legal sufficiency, which basically means, do we have the authority to promulgate these regulations? And clearly we do. That change, or at least that review, can take up to 30 days. And then from there, I believe it goes, Leslie can correct me if I'm wrong, she's the expert on these, but it goes to the the Legislative Review Committee, or Legislative Regulation Review Committee, that's it. And then from there, it keeps on winding its way through the system. So hopefully we're making some progress, and these should be done sooner than later.
Cynthia, is Leslie still on board?
Yep,
Yes.
still here.
Yeah, after the 30 days from the AG, it goes over to the reg committee. Does it then go to the governor for a signature? Does the governor need to?
No. Cindy's description is absolutely accurate. It goes to the legislature. So once AG is done, it's submitted right. Jerry will hit submit quickly to the to LRRC, as the acronym for the Legislative Regulation and Review Committee, and they it takes like 45 days to get it on their agenda after we submit to them after the AG's review. So it's like 45 days. Then it's on their agenda for their meeting. They meet at the end of each month. It's the last Tuesday of the month usually, or the fourth Tuesday of the month, something like that. Something along those lines. So it will end up on their agenda. What happens is, when it's sent over there, the legislative commissioner's office, and that office serves as the nonpartisan staff attorney office for that committee. They then review to make sure everything is, written the way that, in the format that they want, and, things of that nature. And so they review as well. Then they make a recommendation to the LRRC committee members to either reject or accept the proposal. Then they vote on it at their meeting. And once they vote, if they vote yes, then we submit it to the Secretary of State's office for codification. And once that's posted, they're effective. They're the new regs. So that's the process, the rest of the process.
Thanks, Leslie, for that. That's great. Does anybody have any questions? Aaron, obviously, this was information for you, obviously, to get back to the your well drilling industry in Connecticut. I'm sure your question is going to be, where do we go next with this? How do we go about working with DPH? And obviously, they have a lack of uniformity with this, where we want to go with it. What would be our next step? Do you agree, Aaron? Is that a good question?
That's one of my questions. It's funny that they're citing a lack of uniformity, which is the point, by allowing sanitarians some discretion, because the sanitarians know their areas, and not every area of Connecticut is the same. It also is interesting that this is a health code issue. The setbacks are in the health code, not in Consumer Protections Code. The health department allows sanitarians to put a septic system on top of a well when they see fit to move a septic system. Perfect example was the situation that was created in Wolcott that Chris and I just went up to look at. The situation would not have occurred had not local health put the septic 38 feet from the well. So I think the point was missed as to why we were proposing that change. It was to allow some discretion. We weren't taking DCP out of the equation altogether. If there was a question beyond the sanitarian's ability, then it would fall back to the plumbing board. So yes, I guess my question is where we go from here. And I really think that if the sanitarians can't allow us discretion on a well permit to deviate from the setback for a new well, then they really shouldn't have the ability to encroach on an existing well with a new septic under any circumstance. It needs to meet the code. Then there has to be some kind of review. I don't know. That's my question.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in, and then Cynthia, feel free to jump in after me if I miss anything. But I think really at the heart of putting this sort of substance and logistics aside for a second, at the heart of DPH's concern is what is currently in statute, and what we are permitted to do in a regulation based on the statutory framework that exists. And putting this sort of substance of this aside for a second, there's the process as well. And the concern is that this proposed language we submitted to them would be in conflict with the statutes. So a regulation can't, preempt a statute. A statute can preempt a regulation, but you can't, but not the other way. And so they think this needs to be ironed out in statute, not regulation first. And that's the issue. Whether or not they agree or disagree with the substance is frankly less of an issue right now. And it's more about the logistics of how you do it. And they think it needs to be, the statutes need to be amended. So that's really the issue. Now, where do you go from here with regard to that? And the answer is, I think we have to work with DPH to revise the statutes in a way that everyone can agree. And so it's probably late to do that for this legislative session, since agency proposals were due last fall. But we can perhaps maybe after the session ends in May, pull people together that you all work with over on the DPH side, and Cynthia, an attorney over there, and in their legislative, my counterpart over there does legislative work, we can all work together to try to come up with some language for the following session.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. We'll try and attack it in that fashion.
Cynthia, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, sorry.
No, I think you've summarized it perfectly. But my one question was, is it DCP's statute that needs to be amended, or DPH's, or both?
DPH.
Probably both, more on the DPH side, I think, but probably both. But that's why I think we need to
Right.
hammer it out with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie, for that. That was great. Okay. Anybody else have any questions in reference to the well drilling regulations? So it sounds like Attorney Padula, Jerry Padula, is going to continue to bring these regulations, the geo regulations that we've been working on for 13 years to the forefront.
Right, exactly. Jerry's on the next steps. Exactly.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Aaron?
I'd love to see it come to fruition.
Okay, that's a
Everyone
yes. Okay, I'll take that
A
as a
long
yes.
time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for that, and Aaron too. And we'll pursue this after the session ends and see if we can put together a subcommittee for that and meet. Okay, under new business, backflow prevention devices, discussion regarding licensure for the backflow prevention device. We have a hand up. I believe there was a hand up.
You put it back down again.
I put my hand down. I'm sorry, it was hanging there.
Okay.
Had a floating hand.
Okay, is there any discussion today in reference to a backflow prevention device?
Question is, was it registration for the device itself? Is that what I'm reading?
It's discussion, just the licensure for it, which I believe is training that's done through the Department of Health for it. I know that. Obviously, the plumbers do the backflow prevention device installations. It's in our privy. Seeing nobody here has any reference to that.
What are they? I guess I'm lost, Chuck. What are we looking? What's the new business about with the backflow prevention? What is it? What discussion regarding licensure for backflow? Isn't there a backflow prevention license now?
Let me chime in here for a minute. I don't know why it's on the agenda completely. Maybe Karen can add to that. But what I can tell you is that quite a while back, the Fire Protection Sprinkler Board wanted to make an argument that the sprinkler fitters can install a backflow prevention device. And I told them no, that they don't have the statutory authority, that even the irrigation person under the plumbing board has to have a license P1 install the backflow prevention device. Then the irrigation person can tap off of it. I said sprinkler fitters are no different. The plumber brings in the potable water line, puts in the backflow prevention device, and then the sprinkler fitter can install their riser. So this may be left over from that conversation, and the Fire Protection Board did contact Chuck and talk about it. Dave Waskowitz, the chairperson, and everybody is in agreement that unless the statutory change is made in Chapter 393 that allows the definition of fire protection sprinkler work to include installation of backflow prevention device, that a licensed plumbing contractor has to do it currently and forever right now. So that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, obviously, if you have a J1 license, you do the backflow prevention device in the bottom of a well for your well pump, but this is for a potable water line coming into a building that the plumber has to put the backflow prevention device. Likewise, the heating contractors cannot install a backflow prevention device when they have a boiler feed line. So it's got to be done by a licensed plumber, brings over the potable water to the boiler, and then and then the heating guy can take it from that point. So maybe this comes from the sprinkler board argument. I'm not sure why it's on the agenda, unless Karen has more information or a document in regards to it.
So basically, Rich, it's gonna stay status quo. We're not looking to change anything with the backflow preventer.
Correct.
Okay.
The department's position is they'll have to go and lobby for a statutory change if they want to have it where sprinkler fitters can install a backflow prevention device. But the argument's always been potable water comes under plumbing and piping work.
Right.
And potable water, for the protection of potable water, a licensed plumber puts in backflow prevention device.
That's right.
Then once that's been installed, there is a credential from the Department of Public Health that allows a person to test a backflow prevention device, but it does not allow them to remove it or replace it should it fail. They got to contact a licensed plumber. It's just for a person to test it on a periodic basis because of the public health code, wanting to make sure that it's still sufficient.
Okay, thank you, Richard. That clears it up for me.
Good. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Richard. Does anybody else have any questions in reference to backflow today?
Chris did.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, you first, Chris. You were up first.
Okay. I guess this has got to do with the sprinkler people are looking for more work to do, or this has been going on for years. But along with what Richard said, your lawn sprinkler people have been putting them in for years too, testing them and checking them. I don't know about wells because I don't know that much. And I know on the heating companies, when they change a boiler, they're putting the 9D backflows on. So it's been going on for years. And I don't think you're going to change it, and it should stay as the plumbing. But there's not enough inspectors. There's not enough people out there to pressure the people to do it properly. I mean, you're in a work shortage now. You can't get employees. You can't get licensed people, regardless of the trade. So they're just doing what they're doing and moving on. That's all that I have to say about it.
I would just like to clarify, and Rich, maybe you can make sure I'm understanding correctly. But two different devices. We install check valves in well systems, both in the drop pipe string and at the tank. And we also will install backflow preventers or a testable device in certain situations right after the tank, many times to feed an irrigation system.
But you have a plumbing license, the J license.
It is a J license. I wanted
Right.
to be clear that the J's could install a testable device. I also had Aquarian tell me, because I had a J and they were tying city water into houses that we were going to retain the wells. I have had Aquarian tell me it was okay for me to put in the RPZ on their line, which I felt was a little bit sketchy, but they came and inspected it and said it was fine. I think that's beyond our scope, but
Well, it is, because you'd have to have, because you're exempt insofar as the scope of a J1 license, which is anything associated to well pumps and water condition equipment. So, anyway.
a lot of times those RPCs are they're more than 5 feet from the water tank on an irrigation line, but it's still.
But you're allowed to do that, Aaron. You're allowed to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else anybody has any questions for? Okay, let's move on to application review working group. As a designated board member, everything went well. We had a few applications last month. Paulette Annan chimed in with some possible changes that or interpretation of what she thought the statute says. So we're continuing to work on that. Right now, we've been allowing the Westchester County journey person as an equivalence of the P2. to be allowed to test. And I think the last page shows, the Rhode Island journey person is also allowed to test for the P2 as well in Connecticut. Again, they're allowed to take the P2 test, not skip it, but to take it. And go, like everybody's worried that they'll skip it, go right into the contractor license portion. No, they're going through the journeyman piece because their education and their time in the trade allows them to do so.
Chuck, I just want to hang on. Chris, you're sharing your screen with everybody.
Yeah, I know. I got it screwed
Okay.
up here. I gotta
Okay.
go out. Sorry,
For life.
there we go. Okay.
Hey,
Hey, we almost got some gyros for life.
I
there.
just
Nah,
wanted,
you didn't get nothing. Don't worry about it.
you never know.
You're
what the
lucky
hell
I'm
I
on
can
here.
say, Chris, I just wanted to save you that.
It was intriguing for a
Thanks, Jay. It
minute.
wasn't intentional.
It was intriguing.
Want to help you out, my friend. Want to help you out.
Hey, Chucky, my question is, you're allowing the Westchester companies and the Rhode Island companies and the Mass companies, are you allowing their masters to take our P1s, or they're required to go through the P2 program first, then?
Well, this is where Paulette Annan was involved with our last working group meeting, and I'll let Richard chime in on that if you could, Richard, so you can explain that probably in a better format to me.
I'm sorry. Before, I don't know what your question was, but hang on. Do we have to click on another link for Terry Joe to do the hearing thing in 7 minutes or 8 minutes?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, because I just had a pop-up reminder that the meeting's coming up. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Question is, since the working group's allowing Westchester P2 licenses to take Connecticut P2 licenses, are they allowing the Westchester master contractor to take the Connecticut contractor license? Or they have to go to the
All right,
journeyman
so-
license first?
Yeah, so this is a discussion we didn't need to have with Paulette Annan. So, and it's not on your list, I don't think, for the board to approve right now. But we need to have a special meeting with Paulette Annan of all the board chairs, and then eventually convey this information to the board members about the interpretation of having 6 years of equivalent experience, at least 2 of those being journey person experience out of state, and having a contractor's license out of state to be allowed to go straight for a contractor examination. So that's being discussed right now with Paulette Annan. And I don't know if Chuck talked to Larry or not. Larry Valerie's on the electrical board about setting up a meeting with all the boards regarding consideration of journey person experience out of state and to let a person sit for our contractor's exam.
You said 2 years as a journeyman, Richard, and in 4 years, what's
As
the
an
other?
equivalent, as an equivalent apprentice. So it's 6 years total to apply for unlimited contractor type license.
Okay, thank you.
And the statute does say for 6 years of equivalent experience for an out-of-state person. It's been in the statute for a long time, but we've always said equivalent means your education, apprenticeship program, journey person time, etc. So we need to have a special meeting on this.
Correct.
Okay.
And me and
Thank
Larry
you.
have been talking back and forth in the past week since this has come up. But we have not set up, but this is something that we'll further talk about, setting up some sort of a meeting with the chairs.
I got one quick question on the subject, Chuck.
Sure, Jacob.
So I know Rhode Island, Massachusetts, a Connecticut plumber equivalent can go out and take a test in those states and they allow it. Is Westchester, reciprocity is where one, where your reciprocity is an agreement between 2 parties. Is Westchester and Putnam going to allow Connecticut plumbers to come and test in their area with the equivalency? Or is it just
what's been happening right now has nothing to do with the reciprocity language in chapter 393 where both states or both jurisdictions have some type of agreement. We're using the statutory language where it just says, how do you consider equivalent experience and training to let a person sit for an exam? That's what we're doing with these categories that we've looked at already and are on a list of what we feel a credential in another jurisdiction would be equivalent to ours to sit for our exam. So there is a separate section in chapter 393 that addresses reciprocity, where you can obtain a license provided the other jurisdiction allows our people to obtain a license in that jurisdiction. But that's not a section that's even being considered, or we don't use that section because we have no agreement. But the rest of the licensing law says you either complete a bona fide apprenticeship program or you must show equivalent experience in training. And that's what we're doing here. And that's why we need a meeting with Paulette Hannon.
Yeah, okay.
To discuss equivalent experience in training issues to allow a person to sit for an exam, not to discuss the reciprocity statutory language.
Yeah, I guess right now is not the time to get in depth of a conversation. You're right, a special call meeting for this is appropriate.
Yeah, we really need to have this statutory language, the specific sections all put in front of everybody so everybody can read them and discuss it.
I agree. All right, thank you, Rich.
You,
Okay, I think that completes our meeting today. We're going to be taking a 15-minute to 20-minute recess between this board meeting and the beginning of the hearings due to everybody's scheduling, and take a break. So thank you, everybody. Is there any correspondence, Karen, for this meeting today, or comments or concerns?
Let me just look over here. Actually, Jason is here. I'm going to let him in the meeting. I just had a question though regarding number 3 that we just talked about out-of-state licenses and equivalency. Are
Okay.
we what we are looking for is discussion and/or a vote by the board to say that these licenses are equivalent to Connecticut's licenses, that they can be approved by the application review working group. Is it safe to say that this would be tabled until?
I think we need to say it has to be tabled. I'm sorry to
agree.
jump in here, but
Yeah, that's
the
until you
equivalent,
receive
the word
further
equivalent is
information
way too
from
vague.
Paulette.
make a motion to table until we have a special meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Second,
Okay.
any discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, and then
Good
let me
night.
just, I'm gonna have Jason join us here. He's got his hand up. Give me a second, Jason.
Good morning, Jason.
Are you with us?
Yes,
There he is. Can you hear us, Jason?
he's on mute.
I can, thank you. Sorry, I didn't know you were anticipating me here. I had a conflicting meeting, and I actually have another meeting that starts in 1 minute. But I saw an email that you're looking for me, so I wanted to pop in quickly, introduce myself, and answer any quick questions if I could.
Thanks, Jason. I kind of gave an overview of yesterday. If you want to just quickly, if you want to, I told that we're going to set up a meeting in the next couple of weeks with the different groups to, for you to go over, and Karen will give them an ID number to get into the license program. If you want to just give them a quick, as we discussed yesterday, I kind of gave it to them already, but there are kind of a couple people that have the the facilitators here in our board. So you might want to, if you want to do a brief overview of what we talked about yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, we'll put together a demo, but it's pretty easy. If you've ever worked with e-license, I know some of you may have, but it's an online system, and you'll go in and you'll upload each of the required documents for course providers, course proposals, and then Chuck will be able to easily go in and review and approve each document, and if there's any document has an issue, he can mark it as an issue, and it'll let the provider know that they need to resubmit that particular document. And then it'll also integrate with the website. So it'll list all of the approved courses that are available for credential holders to go and take. So it'll be a much more streamlined process and keep things up to date. And actually, Chuck, I was able to finish the system last night. So it's actually ready to go as soon as we want to put it into production.
Great, great. That's good. Good. I've got schools already calling me and asking me how to do this. So this is good. So we'll set up a meeting. I would like to be part of that as scheduling of that occurs with the different schools. If I could be a participant or CC'd on that as well, invited to that meeting, so I can stay up on top of it as well.
Yeah, we'll do it very soon and we'll record it. So if anyone who can't make that meeting can just watch the recording at their convenience.
Great, Jason. Great. Does any board members have any questions for Jason in reference to this?
Vinny does.
Vinny.
Morning.
Vinny, good morning.
It's basically a share file or like a Zix, and then how soon could we submit these? Because we're ready to present ours electronically. So
Yeah, no, it's not a share file. It's you know, it's an online application where you fill in information and upload documents. And it goes into our system.
you said
But,
it's ready relatively soon.
it's ready as soon as we want to, you know, set up the training. You know, I could do something, you know, I'll coordinate with Chuck and Karen today, and we'll get that scheduled and get it out to everybody.
Okay.
Sooner the better. Yeah, because I know people
Yeah.
are ready.
Yeah, we've got to move
Thank
this
you,
quick.
Jason.
No problem.
Thanks, Jason, for coming on.
Cynthia's
pleasure.
got her hand up.
Cynthia,
Hi,
please.
Yes, sorry, I don't have a question for Jay. I was just wondering if we could let Paul Grabowski introduce himself before we sign off. He just joined our OPRO unit 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe, Paul. So if you could just, you know, take a minute to introduce himself to you guys, that'd be great.
You know, thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate that. Paul, I met you last week in the MOU meeting with the commissioner and the staff. Welcome today. I appreciate you coming to our meeting as well. And tell us a little bit about yourself and what your new job will be with the department, please.
Nice to meet everybody. My name is Paul Grabowski. I'm a staff attorney too with the department. Started about a month ago, and I'll be working on occupational enforcement issues. I'll have a lot of the other boards. So I've got heating and cooling, electric, glass, elevators, fire, sprinklers. So you'll be seeing me around every once in a while, and happy to be on board. I've got a lot of administrative law history with Medicare and Medicaid. That's my background, and looking forward to this new role. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome aboard, sir. Does anybody else have any questions for Paul? Okay, all right. I think we can close this meeting. Again, we're going to take a 15-20 minute break. We're going to be switching over to, we're coming off of Zoom, and we're going on to
Teams.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
any discussion? Okay, so all